it. You got it. It's the return of the Sunday night news and nonsense report. And we've got some people on some different sides of the fence tonight, kids. On one side of the fence, we've got somebody who supports your freedom, software freedom. We've got Deckard Kane. How you doing, Deckard?
Hello. Nice to be here. Doing all right. How about you?
Oh, great. And, for those of you who don't know, Deckard is the other admin that we have here at Cup of Linux. So when Spatry takes a break, we've got somebody keeping things running here and that sort of thing. And you're also in charge of our gaming, and you're going to be setting something up there. But, since you switched over to Triskel, you got to tell us, how are you running Steam on Triskel now?
I won't be running Steam on Triskel. That is a sin, Spat. You should know better. Come on now. Any proprietary software on here is just... That's the worst possible crime you could possibly commit.
All right. So you hear that, kids? So that means anybody who wants to come in for Cup of Linux gaming, all of the gaming will be absolutely free as in freedom, right?
Absolutely. Or you'll be able to grab the source code for the proprietary software in some means or another.
Oh, okay. All right. So cool deal. All right. And then we got somebody on the other side of the fence who plays Xbox, and he loves his... I got to ask you, Toss, did your computer automatically upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 10?
No, I went to the website, forced to download, did the upgrade. I did it first on a test machine, and it seemed okay. And then I did it on my current production machine, this one I'm using, and it seems okay. But I tested it first, and for me at least, I had no glitches.
I have to. So you mean to tell me you're not one of those Windows users that's kicking and screaming and holding on to Windows 7 as long as they can? You got Windows 10 with NSA spyware Cortana on the start menu and that stuff, right?
I have to admit it. I have the hotties for Cortana.
And of course, I'm on the fence. I'm on neither side here, because. I love Linux. I love my Manjaro, yet I love running my ancient proprietary software and wine that probably won't even run on regular versions. And then, of course, we have a special guest on the show because guess what, kids? We got a rant session coming on tonight, and we've got a gripe. We are mad, and we have to have the Linux Madman on the show with us as well. Matthew, how you doing, buddy?
I'm just wondering why you just call me special, but I'm good.
That's because you are special. You are.
No, I'm doing pretty good.
All right. Well, before we get into the rant session, why not have a little bit of news? Let's start off with this one. Adobe issues emergency update to Flash after ransomware attacks. Oh, goodness. This is something I think all of us Linux users are, we're all happy that everything's transitioning over to HTML5. Even YouTube's already made the transition because now it appears Adobe Systems issued an emergency update on Thursday to its widely used Flash software for internet browsers after researchers discovered a security flaw that was being exploited to deliver ransomware to Windows PCs. You see, Toss, this is why in this season we are going to talk you into getting out of that, proprietary slaveware and turn away from the dark side. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So at any rate, the ransomware encrypts data, locking up your computers and then demanding payment that often ranges anywhere from $200 to $600 to unlock each infected PC. Luckily, according to this article, it is attacking Windows PCs, but that's not to say it couldn't harm Linux or Mac users as well. So I think this week it's time to purge Flash from my Linux box. And Deckard's already got that taken care of. He uses Triskel, and Flash doesn't work on Triskel, does it?
No, it does not. At least not by default.
Well, you guys got Ganache. So can it sneak in through Ganache?
I would imagine so. Because most of the time people are trying to reverse engineer Flash and trying to implement the functions that it's using there into Ganache, but I believe Ganache has been dead for so long now that I don't even know of one person that's still using it. And most of Flash stuff has been replaced by HTML5 in most of the big giants on the internet anyways. But one important thing to keep in mind is even if you do replace Flash with HTML5, we'll still have the problems because it's still proprietary in some flavors of HTML5.
True that. But I don't know. We'll just see how this plays out. In the meantime, I'm a Flash developer myself. Some of the elements that are on cupoflinux.com were built in Flash and then converted to HTML5. But I mean, I like it. I'm talking about the old Macromedia Flash, not the Adobe stuff that came out afterwards. If I do develop anything, it's just because the drawing tools are very easy to use, and I'm making simple little things for my personal use in projects and that sort of thing. So it's not like it's something that I'm making things that are going to be easily exploitable. At least I like to think that I'm not making things that are easily exploitable and that sort of thing. What you got, Toss?
Well, on the subject of ransomware, I did a short video on this. I did some research. And if you think coming in the near future, if you think you guys are safe from ransomware using Linux or Mac, think again. This, sadly, is big business. I guess another hospital in Maryland got hit with the ransomware. Granted, they were using Windows, but I think because ransomware apparently rakes in hundreds of millions of dollars just on Windows, why should these developers only focus on Windows? Why not go to Linux or Mac? So I think that's coming. Although I believe you are going to be safer in Linux or Mac PCs, but because
You're not touting that security through obscurity thing again, are you?
No. I just think because it's lucrative more than I thought. Why should these guys stop at just attacking only Windows PCs? I mean, why only stop there? But
well, they're not. There's an old saying: you can't get blood from a stone. Okay, a lot of people who use Linux are using it because it didn't cost them anything. So you probably have a lot more poor people using Linux, maybe.
But wait, yeah, okay. Let's say that's entirely true. But let's say your precious files, videos, and everything. Now those are locked, and you have to have them back, and you have no backup. What are you going to do?
Shoot new videos.
Yeah, call it a hard lesson learned.
Yeah.
Hard lesson learned. You should have had them backed up. You should have been more secure. I mean, I know of 3 friends who had this happen to them. And I mean, it really is as simple as that, because the way that you pay these people is through Tor, and they want to get paid in Bitcoin. So you'd have to convert your currency to Bitcoin, log on to a Tor server, and then pay them the Bitcoin. And there's no guarantee that you're going to get it back anyways.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm firmly with the fact that there should be no negotiations with terrorists.
Amen to that. And that's the fact right there. Just take it as though you had a hard drive crash, you lost your data. All right, hey, it happens. You lose your data sometimes, and yes, you should always keep everything backed up. It makes sense to do that. And so, where ransomware is concerned and that sort of thing, especially in the Linux world, most of that data can be replaced anyway. And I mean, I've got tons of videos showing you how you can back up stuff, how you can back up your virtual machines. And I mean, if you're really paranoid about your machine getting messed up and everything, maybe that's what we're eventually going to be doing. I was just talking with somebody today. Well, that was you, Matthew. I think they're using, where you're working, they're using some kind of virtualized setup so that your store computers are using a virtualized setup for accessing the internet. Keep the systems protected. It makes sense. People may eventually end up having to do that. Hook up a virtual machine just to surf the internet so that they can keep their main computers safe, That's
not a bad idea. I mean, if you have to use Windows for whatever reason, but don't feel safe going on the web, download your favorite easy Linux Mint or Ubuntu in virtualized environment from Windows 10 to go on the web, and there you go.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's quite interesting that we're going down that road again, because back in quote unquote the day, everyone had client machines that were just dumb terminals, and you'd connect to the server and the server would keep everything safe. And it seems more and more as these programs get more and more malicious with the anonymity networks and the great encryption methods and the best ways to hide yourself from being able to be caught by doing these illegal acts, we're switching more over to letting the IT guys take care of what they do best. And I find it really interesting that, things were built that way in the beginning. They changed, and now we're going back that way again. But with regards to backups and things, they had read-only hardwares you can use, like read-only hard drives or read-only USB sticks with the toggle switch on the side, which is what I'd recommend to people for those of you in the listening audience.
All right. Before we go on to our rant session, Decker, you got any news?
I do not, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess I'll throw another piece of a news snippet out, and then we'll go into our little rant session or whatever. It seems Linus Torvalds still wants Linux to take over the desktop.
What is he smoking?
Well, while Linux pretty much dominates almost every walk of our lives, even on the computer devices like smartphones, smart TVs, it's still not had the same level of success on the desktop. What does Torvalds think about it? Linux is a failure on the desktop? Not really. The desktop hasn't really taken over the world like Linux has in many other areas. But just looking at Linus's own use, he mentions that his desktops look so much better than anything he could have ever imagined, despite the fact that, he's known for sometimes not being very polite to some people of the desktop, who make the desktop UIs and that sort of thing. Now, interestingly enough, though, on the kernel side of things, it appears that, they have just added support to another file system called Orange FS, bringing the number of supported file systems to 35 of them. I got to ask you guys, how many file systems does Mac and Windows support?
No comment.
Maybe 4 at best.
Yeah, I'm thinking 3 or 4. I know Windows is FAT16, FAT32, NTFS, but I think Mac has 4.
And exFAT too.
Oh, there you go.
exFAT, but yeah, Linux has support for 35 file systems.
But do we need 35 file systems?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a file system for everybody.
35. Not like 10 or 20. Okay.
When was the last time you defragmented your hard drive on Ubuntu, Toss?
Oh, just 5 minutes ago. No, I'm just kidding.
We don't have to do that because we have better file systems.
Yes.
Windows slows down over time because their file system, is awful.
True.
And I think they copied one of our file systems. I think they got ReFS now or something like that. Yeah.
I think they call it NUFS, like new FS or something like that.
Oh, okay. Well, at any rate, is it going to make much? And even then, that's only for enterprise users. So I'm sure we'll find out more over time with that one. You got any other news, Toss, before we go to our rant session?
Just one brief thing. I guess there was some news about BlackBerry. I did not know they were still in business, but they're going to release, I guess, 2 Android phones soon. Didn't they go under? But apparently not. But they still in business, and they're going to release 2 type of Android BlackBerry phones. That's kind of strange.
Okay, so BlackBerry is going to use Android/Linux on their devices now. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Are they going to have to pay the Microsoft extortion fees for?
Sure,
yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, are they gonna have to pay up, $1 billion a year to Microsoft for using Android on their devices now?
Well, stay tuned. I don't know.
Okay, well, we'll find out about that one. Yes, that's it. That's right. We've seen them all year, and I had to laugh every time I saw these posters going up. Microsoft has these big posters that says Microsoft, big heart, love Linux. Well, if that were true, then if Microsoft really is embracing open source and everything, then one thing they're going to need to do to get the trust of the free and open source community is to stop extorting all the companies with these bogus patent trolling things they've been doing for the past number of years and that sort of thing. And then, of course, right around April 1st, and I realize this is old news now because it's 10 days old, we get word that Bash is now going to be a component in Windows thanks to Canonical. So now, wouldn't you say that brings new meaning to bashing on Windows, Toss?
Oh, absolutely, baby.
And somebody brought this up on the forum, and a lot of people had mixed feelings about this. So let's just go with everybody alphabetically. We'll get your reviews. Let's start with you, Deckard. What do you think about this? Basically, and for those of you who don't know, basically all they're really getting are the Born Again shell bash and its tools. So they can run apt-get commands and get some tools like Emacs and stuff like that loaded into their system. I see it as a form of control from Microsoft to keep developers tied into Windows and letting the developers have their bash tools. What do you think about that, Deckard?
Well, it's definitely interesting. I'll say that much. But I think all around, I think it's quite disgusting that that Canonical's stooping to that level, but I think I understand the reason why they're doing that. I think that the major thing that they're trying to look at is trying to port as many Linux programs over to Microsoft as they can, because we all know that Microsoft is a software company. Yeah, they've got their hardware and so on, but that's not really their bread and butter. Their bread and butter is the Office suite, the Windows Server software packages, and Microsoft Windows. And if Canonical can inject themselves into portions of that market, perhaps by removing the Office suite, starting to remove some of the Windows Server components in with Linux programs, they can begin to dismantle Microsoft's tower of control that they've built on top of everyone. So I applaud them in that rate, but I don't think that it's the right way to go. And with regards to these posters, don't be fooled. Microsoft is not your friend. They do not love Linux. They love to destroy Linux, and there'll probably be more on that later. But overall, I understand it, but I completely do not agree with any of it.
Yeah, I've seen. You remember back in the 80s, everybody had those bumper. You remember this, Toss? Back in the 80s, everybody had these bumper stickers on their card that said, I love my, and then there was a picture of, the I heart my, yes. And then there was a picture of the German Shepherd. So yes. National Lampoon magazine, offered in their magazine some of these screw stickers, so that as a prank, you could go around to these cards that had those little heart bumper stickers and, replace the heart with a screw, And I was thinking, this could probably apply to that Microsoft poster. Microsoft, well, I'm not going to say it because it sounds dirty, but, But before I pass the mic over to Matthew, this is the sentiment people are feeling because, if we look at what has been said on the Wikipedia, and this is an internal thing from Microsoft: embrace, extend, and extinguish. They're very well known for using this mentality where software is concerned. I see, Deckard, I see your mic is flashing. I'll hand it over to you in a second here. But I mean, an example that, they actually made things that would break the interoperability of Java working cross-platform on some of their applications. They were actually, there's an article here in the antitrust case. Plaintiffs accused Microsoft of using the embrace and extend strategy with regard to the Java platform, which was designed explicitly with the goal of working cross-platform. And they had these APIs and everything, one of them called JDirect, which would basically break Java and only allow those Java applications to work on Windows and not on Linux or any other platform. And I mean, that's just one example. It's a great article on the Wikipedia that you guys can read through. Really gives you food for thought. And I really want to believe that their CEO really wants to push Microsoft in a different direction. But I don't know. I just don't buy it. Did you want to say something real quick, Decker, before I pass it over to Matthew?
Don't hold your breath, Spat. They're not going to change. Believe me when I say they will not change. And I wouldn't be surprised if they implemented some sort of system into the operating system to discourage users or prevent users from installing any software that comes from a Canonical. And I would bet every penny I have that Microsoft is going to make it really, really hard for Canonical to develop any software for the operating system. But I love that little bit you said. What was that? Embrace, examine, extinguish, or something like that?
Embrace, extend, and extinguish. And I will have a link in the description below where this video is, so you guys can read that article. Matthew, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think Ubuntu or Canonical and Microsoft make good bedfellows? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Well, the first time I heard about this whole bash thing coming to Windows, I had mixed feelings about it, because on the surface it sounds like a good idea, because you have these developers and they would want to stay on one platform and be able to develop everything under one umbrella. On the surface that sounds good, but then you start to look at what's actually taking place. If Microsoft only wanted to have these development tools, if they wanted Bash and they wanted Emacs and they wanted these development tools, what purpose do they have in bringing the entire Ubuntu backend over to the platform? It's completely unneeded. So the fact that they're doing that speaks volumes to that there is definitely some sort of partnership happening here, and there's definitely something going on that they're not telling us. Because if these tools, this convenience was their goal, there would be no need to pull over these extra backends. But they did, and that by itself tells you that they're up to something. And, well, hey, it's Microsoft. I mean, do we really trust what they're doing? I don't. They have a history of proving to everyone that they can't be trusted. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, what I'm thinking is they know Linux is a better architecture. Let's face it. We've got Windows beat in many, many ways. Maybe they're working on a way to eventually transition everything that they have over to our platform. Possibly, most likely not. I think what they're looking for is a foothold on Linux, which Linus Torvalds owns. Linus Torvalds owns Linux, or at least just the name, okay? I think Microsoft wants to grab this and really own it. There's got to be some kind of strategy like that in the works. Can't really say for sure. We just got to see how this plays out. Toss, what do you think about all this nonsense here?
Well, as a Windows/Linux user, different versions of Linux for beginners and, professing
and soon
Linux.
To be future, by the end of this season, folks, we're going to have Toss completely transitioned over to Linux 100% with no Windows partition. Mark my words. Go ahead.
You really should stop sniffing those Linux kernels. They're really not good for you. But as I was saying, as a dual booter, and telling folks for some years now, at least try Linux, you might like it. I do. All of this to me sounds at best strange. It's speculation, of course, but it's funny that we were talking about ransomware. So what you guys are saying is, by using Bash or whatever, Windows wants to hold Linux ransom? Could it be? I don't know, but when I first read it, I thought it was an April Fool's joke. Evidently, it's not. So what need could there be? So I guess maybe for all of these developers to develop better apps for both Linux and Windows, can this marriage really work? Honestly, I don't know. All I can tell you is, as a dual booter, it sounds strange at best, sinister at worst. Where is this going to lead? I don't know, but I would be a little bit suspicious at this point. Not to bash Linux or Windows, but I don't know. To me, it just doesn't sound right.
I see it as a form of control, because I did watch the video earlier today and during their keynote speech, and they were basically explaining they're bringing these tools to Windows so that developers don't have to leave the Windows platform to get their work done. That immediately said to me, we're putting a ball and chain around your ankle and we're keeping you in Windows. We're going to give you the tools you want, but it's going to be on our terms, you know?
Well,
Of course, that's devil's advocate. Go ahead.
What for the last, I don't know, Spatry, 10, 15 years, this might be the year of the Linux desktop. It seems to me, you're right, maybe Microsoft sees an opportunity to somehow take control of Linux, because on the desktop, there is no official spokesperson. Yeah, there's you and me and telling, Windows folks, hey, try Linux, try Linux Mint, try Ubuntu, like you might like it. But when you walk into a store, where is the official Linux desktop? And I've been saying for the last 2 years, I think Google has the brains and the resources to create a bona fide, reliable, and or gaming Linux desktop, because the number one complaint I hear on my channel, where's the gaming? The gaming is not as good on Linux as it is on Windows. Granted, but it can do almost everything else better, if not just as good or better. But if there was a bona fide Linux desktop at your favorite computer store by a reliable company, and the darn thing works without worrying about graphics drivers or AMD versus NVIDIA and this and that, and will gaming work? Consumers don't want that. I think if that existed, maybe Microsoft would back off, because would they want to tangle with a company like Google? Just speculation, but I don't know. What do you think?
Well, Valve's bringing more games to the table, and that's neither here nor there. Once we get the official Steam box release, I'm sure they're going to have an exclusive title for Steam OS and Linux only to sell those Steam boxes. They're going to have to do it. Otherwise, they're not going to sell Steam boxes. So, I would not be, once they're ready for official to roll this out, official release, they're going to come out with a handful of AAA titles that are going to be for Linux/Steam OS. It's going to piss people off, so they're going to be running in droves to get their copy of Ubuntu or Steam OS or whatever, just so that they can get those games and be the first to play them. It's going to happen, and it all hinges right now on when Steam is ready to do that, and that's neither here nor there. As far as gaming goes, when I had my comeback show, I put a 90-minute video up on getting not only getting Skyrim working, because I had some people ask on the forum about getting Skyrim working with all the mods and stuff like that. I showed people how they could do it in a 90-minute video. And pretty much most games that run on DirectX 9 work great in Wine. You buy them from Steam. I've had a really, really good success rate. So just making sure that you have all the dependencies and everything installed for them, you can get them working. If there's a will, there is a way. And gaming is getting better. Now I don't have the money to go out and buy new games all the time. And speaking of games, after tonight's show, stick around, guys. After tonight's show, I have two Steam keys to give away to you dual booters out there. So after the show tonight, 2 Steam keys are going out. So we will, and Deckard will do the drawings afterwards, and everybody gets a chance to win. So even people that are on the panel, I'm going to give everybody a secret number, and Deckard's going to pick out the secret number, and we're going to give away 2 Steam keys tonight. And I want to thank my secret sponsor for donating the Steam keys. Great for you dual booters who love, doing things on Steam on your Windows side. But you know what? I play Windows games from Steam on my Linux box. It's gotten better. Wine keeps getting better. I can't complain there. Well, geez, we've been at this for quite a while here. We've already gone over the half-hour mark. So at this point, do we have anything else before we wrap up for the night?
Yes. 2 things. The first, gaming on Linux. I really wish Edge was here, because he was explaining to me that most of the games that he likes to play, even some of the ones that he doesn't like to play, are playable on Linux with absolutely no performance difference between his Linux box and the performance expected from Windows. Granted, not all of your favorite games are available on Linux just yet. So, if you're going to be gaming with proprietary games, why not keep around an extra Windows 7, say, machine, just because 7 is the one that respects your freedom the most out of all of them. And thing the second is the reasoning for Canonical being putting their software onto Windows for the sake of being able to have a platform for everyone to use to develop for all the platforms is an interesting idea, but I'd like to point out that both Macintosh systems and Linux systems are able to develop for all the platforms anyways. But if that is the case, and Microsoft and Canonical are teaming up to develop a better Microsoft operating system where you can develop on all the different systems, then I think it might be time for us to take a good hard look at how much market share we would like Canonical to have. Because in my mind, that is the ultimate betrayal to everything that I know Linux to be.
Matthew?
Yeah, I really don't have anything to add to that. That's pretty much my thoughts exactly.
All right, I'd like to share that I share the sentiment Edge has on gaming. When I think about the performance of Skyrim, for instance, on Windows 7 versus playing it on Linux, it's just as buggy. It crashes just as much. The performance is exactly the same. When you're running a heavily modded game, you expect the game to crash and be unstable. So where that's concerned, as far as the gaming is, I share the sentiment. I'm in 100% agreement there. Where Canonical is concerned, Mark has worked very, very hard at bringing Ubuntu into the mainstream, coming out of the limelight and, making a name for Canonical. And if he may be working with Microsoft, he figures as a means to that end. Maybe the true intent behind this form of merger is being done with the intent of benefiting everyone and for the greater good. But I sense behind this, because we know Microsoft's history, I bet you there are some things that, it reminds me of the two businessmen shaking hands where one of them's got his fingers crossed behind his back,
Yeah. I have a picture of you doing that. I don't know why, but I just love Windows not.
Well, let's face it.
Absolutely. You got two businessmen shaking hands and they each got their fingers crossed behind their back or something, We just have to see how well this plays out, and I'm sure the comments that we're going to be getting on this video toss are going to be epic. Good thing I have strong language filters on my YouTube channel, because I'm sure people are going to have some really colorful metaphors to throw into the mix there. What have you got, Toss?
Boy. Well, I hope that when it comes to this so-called, I guess, call it marriage, I hope that the intent and the end game are one and the same, meaning that it's positive in the end. That's all I can hope for, and that's really all I have to say.
All right, good enough. Deckard, thank you for joining us. Matthew Moore, pleasure having you. We didn't even think you were going to be able to make it, and as always, Toss, it's a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.
It's a joy having everybody here. We got a full house in here, so right after Toss takes us out here, we're going to give away some Steam keys. How does that sound, guys?
Very good.
All right, take us out, Toss.
Thank you, one and all, for joining us for this Sunday Night News and Nonsense Report. I guess it was more news than nonsense, but still good. Join us, I guess, Batchfree next Sunday, same time, 8 p.m. And maybe one of these weekends we'll do it at a more friendly time for our friends over in the UK. Maybe a Saturday night. How does that sound?
Actually, we do have a show coming up on a Saturday night in the near future. I'm still working out details with the Compiz Reloaded team. We're gonna get some of the people that are developing on that, and so we're going to be bringing them in for a very special Linux Zoo crew. I'd like to try and keep the news and nonsense reports on Sunday nights like we've always done.
Okay.
So that we, because then, because Saturday nights, we want to get the gaming. I know Deckard wants to get the gaming going. So we need, and so you guys can contact Deckard through the forums if you're interested in getting into free and open source gaming. He's in control of that portion of our community. Also, I'd like to make an announcement in closing. I have a staff position opening. If any of you enjoy building Manjaro, we are looking for a maintainer for MCold. That's the Manjaro Cup of Linux edition. There is a forum thread for that, and basically what we're looking for is somebody who can provide a release in 32 and 64-bit twice a year, who will take user input and basically, bring out a release twice a year. And this way it'll free me up to work with Deckard on improving other areas of the community. And we can still have an official community OS with somebody who's building that for us. So if any of you feel like you'd like to do that, please mention that on our forum. We are taking applications, and it is a staff position. And we're also looking for other people to contribute in other ways with the community, because, in the event that Spatry needs to take another break, we still want the community to thrive. So we're going to also be looking for other show hosts to make videos for Cup of Linux. We're really working on ways to really improve the community, because it's not about Spatry. Cup of Linux is about you, all of you. And this community wouldn't exist if it weren't for all of you. And we want to bring everybody together to contribute and share and grow. And this is a great opportunity to do that. Well, that's all I have. And thank you once again, all of you. We'll be here same time, same channel next week. Peace out.